love the Eagles as much as we do, then hit that subscribe button and stick with us at Eagles Nest News for all the drama, updates, and hype all season long. We've got major news coming out of Philadelphia, and if you're an Eagles supporter or just someone tracking all the buzz heading into the NFL draft, this one's for you. The focus today is tight end Dallas Goedert. That's right, one of the more consistent pieces in Philly's offense over the last few years might be heading for the exit. Let's dive into everything going on behind the scenes and why the next few days could be critical. Dallas Goedert has been a fixture in the Eagles lineup ever since the team moved on from Zach Ertz. He's been a reliable target in the passing game, a tough guy over the middle, and someone who fits the physical identity this offense tries to maintain. But now, at 30 years old, with a contract nearing its end and a cap hit of almost $12 million in the upcoming season, the Eagles are facing a classic NFL decision. Do they ride with the veteran one more year? Or is it time to turn the page and find a new face for the position? This isn't just about money, although the financial piece is huge. Goedert's deal, which runs through this season, is putting real pressure on the Eagles' salary cap flexibility. The team has other stars to keep happy. Guys like A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, and of course their new offensive weapon out of the backfield, Saquon Barkley. With that kind of firepower, every dollar counts. That makes Goedert's future in Philadelphia more uncertain than ever. And here's where things get really interesting. According to reports, teams around the league aren't just kicking the tires. They believe the Eagles are actually open to dealing Goedert. And not just for immediate draft capital. No, the buzz is that Philly would even consider picks in the 2026 draft if the right offer comes in. That's a big shift in approach. Usually, when you trade a veteran like this right before the draft, it's all about getting compensation you can use now, not next year. But this tells us something about how the front office, led by General Manager Howie Roseman, is thinking. They're playing the long game. And let's not forget about the timing. With the draft just days away, there's a lot of movement happening behind the scenes. Teams are finalizing their boards, identifying targets, and figuring out where veterans might be expendable. Goedert, despite a down year in 2024 where he only managed just under 500 yards and a pair of touchdowns, still holds real value. Tight ends with his experience and skill set don't just grow on trees. Even if he's not putting up Pro Bowl numbers, his presence on the field commands attention, and that opens up space for everyone else in the offense. Now, why would the Eagles even consider moving on from a guy like that, especially when they're gearing up for another playoff push? It all comes down to timing and opportunity. This year's draft class is loaded with tight end prospects. Scouts and analysts have been hyping up several names as immediate contributors, and Philly might be thinking that now is the moment to reset the position with a younger, cheaper option who fits into the offense long-term. And if they can get assets in return for Goedert, even if those assets don't pay off until 2026, it might be worth it in the bigger picture. Of course, the risk is real. If they trade Goedert before the draft and fail to land one of their preferred tight end prospects, that leaves a big hole in the middle of the offense. Sure, Brown and Smith will continue to dominate on the outside, and Barkley can contribute in the passing game too, but having that dependable tight end who can find the soft spots in zone coverage or help convert a third and short is invaluable. Goedert brings that element, and it's not easily replaced by a rookie, even a talented one. So what happens if they don't move him before the draft? That's when things could get even more complex. If no deal materializes this weekend, the Eagles might pivot and explore post-draft options. At that point, they'll have a clearer picture of their roster and any new additions. If they miss out on tight ends during the draft, maybe they decide to hold on to Goedert for one last run. But if they do land a rookie they believe in, they could circle back to trade discussions, even if it means settling for future compensation. There's also the possibility that Goedert becomes part of a bigger trade package. We've seen it before, teams using veteran players to move up or down in the draft, or to make space for another acquisition. If Roseman sees a deal that brings long-term value or helps balance the roster in other areas, he's shown in the past that he's not afraid to make bold moves. Just look at his track record. The guy is always thinking 2 steps ahead. And for Goedert, this moment is about more than just his future in Philadelphia. It's about proving he still belongs among the upper tier of tight ends in the league. The numbers last season weren't what he or the team hoped for, but that doesn't erase what he's done over the last several years. There's still a lot of football left in him, and there are teams out there who see his value, not just as a pass catcher, but as a blocker, a leader, and a veteran who knows what it takes to win in the postseason. As the draft approaches, keep an eye on this story. It might not be grabbing the top headlines just yet, but make no mistake, what happens with Dallas Goedert could have ripple effects across the league. If a contender loses out on their top tight end target in the draft, or suffers an injury in camp, Goedert suddenly becomes a hot commodity. And if the Eagles are willing to play the waiting game and accept future draft picks, that only expands the list of potential buyers. This is one of those classic watch this space situations, because whether it happens tomorrow, next week, or even in the months to come, the writing might already be on the wall. Dallas Goedert's days in midnight green could be numbered. If we're being honest, the Eagles are walking a tightrope here. On one side, they've built a roster ready to contend now. They've got playmakers at every level of the offense, a franchise quarterback in Jalen Hurts, and a defense that, while needing a bit of retooling, still features elite talent. This isn't a team looking to rebuild. It's a team trying to maximize its championship window. And that's what makes the Dallas Goedert situation so tricky. Trading away a veteran like Goedert in this moment sends a message. It tells the locker room and the fan base that the front office is willing to make tough choices, even if they're unpopular. But it also raises questions about depth and continuity. Who steps up in the tight end room if Goedert is gone? Who becomes that safety valve for Hurts when pressure collapses the pocket and he needs someone to find a quick seam down the middle? Right now, there isn't a clear-cut answer. The Eagles don't have another tight end on the roster with anywhere near the same experience or chemistry with the quarterback. That makes this decision even riskier. Unless, of course, they already have a plan. Maybe they've identified a tight end in the upcoming draft they're absolutely in love with. Maybe they believe a rookie can come in and do the job. But let's look at it from another angle. Maybe this is exactly the kind of move that helps the Eagles stay competitive in the long term. Howie Roseman has been praised for years for knowing when to move on from players before their value drops. And maybe he sees the writing on the wall with Goedert. He's not getting younger. His production dipped last year. He's not exactly cheap. If you're going to trade him, doing it now, before the draft, before another season of wear and tear, might bring the best return. Waiting too long, especially if he struggles or gets hurt, could tank his value completely. And you have to think about market dynamics too. There are a handful of teams out there quietly looking for a tight end. Some of them won't go public about it because they don't want to show their hand before the draft. But if you're a team that just missed the playoffs or has a young quarterback who needs a reliable security blanket, Goedert could be a game changer. His skill set is balanced. He's not just a big target with good hands. He's a guy who can block, stay on the field for every down, and do the dirty work in the run game. Coaches love players like that. Offensive coordinators build around guys like that. Now imagine you're one of those teams. Maybe you're a franchise sitting at the back half of the first round, hoping your top tight end prospect doesn't get snatched up before your pick. But the clock's ticking, and the draft board isn't falling your way. What do? Do you take a flyer on a project player? Or do you pick up the phone and call Philadelphia? That's the kind of leverage the Eagles could have here. They don't have to move Goedert. There's no desperation. But the fact that they're reportedly open to future picks, that's what gives them flexibility. They're saying, we'll make the deal if it's right, even if it doesn't help us tomorrow. That patience could pay off big. And here's something else to consider: the locker room dynamics. Goedert is a well-respected veteran. He's been through big playoff runs, including that Super Bowl appearance. He knows what it takes. Losing him could impact team chemistry, especially for a quarterback like Hurts who's developed trust with his tight end over the years. That's not nothing. There's a reason tight ends often have such strong relationships with their quarterbacks. It's a position built on timing and trust. Breaking that rhythm could have short-term consequences, even if the long-term plan works out. But this is also the business side of football. You can't hold on to everyone forever. The salary cap forces tough decisions, and the best franchises are the ones that manage change without falling apart. That's the real challenge here for the Eagles. Can they evolve, shift gears, and still remain a top-tier team? Now, let's flip the focus back to Goedert himself. He's not in control of the situation, but he's not powerless either. He knows what he brings to the table. If he ends up getting traded, he'll walk into a new locker room as a proven commodity. That's not something every tight end in the league can say. And if the right team lands him, maybe one with a playoff-caliber roster and a need at the position, he could thrive in a new environment. Sometimes change is exactly what a player needs to spark that second chapter of their career. What's fascinating about all of this is how it plays into the bigger picture of the NFL offseason. Every year, there are one or two veterans whose situations fly under the radar until suddenly they're the centerpiece of a major trade or the reason a draft plan gets thrown into chaos. Goedert has that potential. Quiet, consistent, and maybe a little overlooked right now. But make no mistake, teams are watching. And you better believe general managers around the league are calculating. They're asking themselves if it's worth giving up future assets for a player who might only be around for a year. They're doing the math on his cap hit. They're comparing him to the rookies in this draft class. And all the while, Howie Roseman is sitting back, waiting, ready to strike when the value lines up just right. So here we are, days away from the draft, with a tight end who could end up being one of the most important names in the league's trade market. It's not the kind of blockbuster move that dominates headlines like a quarterback trade would. But don't underestimate it. These are the moves that build depth, that solidify schemes, that give quarterbacks one more weapon or open up cap space for a late offseason signing. It's the chess moves like this that define seasons. And with the Eagles right in the middle of it, you can be sure something's brewing. It might be quiet for now, but don't blink. Because if a deal goes down, whether it's tomorrow, during the draft, or even afterward, it could shift the balance of power for more than one team. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The NFL never sleeps, and neither do the rumors. Just months after torching the Philadelphia Eagles for 2 touchdowns in Week 1 of the 2023 season, wide receiver Goedert Bourne could now find himself on the other side of that rivalry. Whispers around the league are growing louder. Could the former 49er and current Patriot be eyeing a new home in Philly? It's a move that would raise eyebrows and perhaps turn the Eagles' offense into something even more dangerous. Bourne's journey has been far from linear. After carving out a role in San Francisco and later becoming a key playmaker in New England, he seemed poised for a breakout campaign in 2023. And for a moment, it looked like that season was finally happening. That opener against the Eagles reminded everyone just how electric Bourne can be in space. But fate had other plans. A torn ACL in Week 8 cut his momentum short, and he spent the rest of the year watching from the sidelines. Fast forward to 2024. Bourne inked a 3-year extension with the Patriots back in March, a move many believed signaled his long-term future in Foxborough. Yet NFL contracts are often more about flexibility than commitment. While the deal keeps Bourne under team control, the structure allows for movement, especially if the Patriots decide to fully commit to a youth movement or shake up their receiving core. Bourne's return from the PUP list also indicates he's healthy and ready to contribute, a factor that surely hasn't gone unnoticed by other front offices. Enter the Eagles, who despite having a dynamic offense, are constantly in search of depth and versatility at wide receiver. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith headline the room, but the rotation beyond them has been inconsistent. Bourne brings a physical presence, polished route running, and playoff experience, not to mention a chip on his shoulder for being overlooked. His familiarity with NFC defenses and history of rising in big moments makes him a tantalizing fit in Nick Sirianni's scheme. Of course, no deal is imminent yet, but the smoke is there, and where there's smoke in the NFL, there's often fire. Could Goedert Bourne become the latest weapon in Philadelphia's arsenal? As we wait to see how the roster shapes up heading into training camp, fans and insiders alike are keeping a close eye on what could become one of the most intriguing late off-season developments in the league. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.